All right, let's talk about one of the most famous plays ever written, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Today, we are diving headfirst into the absolutely breathless first half of this story, and trust me, it's a wild ride. Okay, so right from the get-go, Shakespeare does something kind of crazy. He just tells us the ending. The prologue basically says, hey, these two star-crossed lovers from families that hate each other, yeah, they're gonna die. So you realize this play isn't about suspense. It's not about what happens. It's all about how it happens. We're just here to watch this terrible, beautiful, and totally inevitable tragedy play out. So let's set the scene. We're in Verona. It's supposed to be this beautiful city, right? But underneath all that beauty, something really ugly is going on. There's this ancient grudge, as Shakespeare calls it. It's a long, bitter war between two super powerful families, and it's basically poisoned the entire city. And you see just how insane things are right in the very first scene. And we're not even talking about the big-shot nobles having a fancy duel. No, this starts with their servants. One of them bites his thumb at another, which, by the way, is pretty much the 16th century version of flipping the bird. And boom, the whole street just explodes into a giant brawl. This tells you right away, this isn't just some family spat. It's like a disease that's infected everyone. So, let's meet the players. On one side, you've got the Montagues. On the other, the Capulets. And you gotta understand, these aren't just family names. They're more like rival gangs or tribes, and their lives are all about to get completely snarled up in this web of hatred. Now, the ones you really want to watch are the kids. Romeo, Juliet, the fiery Tybalt, and the super sharp-witted Mercutio. They're the ones who are gonna get hit the hardest by this whole ancient grudge thing. Okay, so after this huge street fight, the ruler of Verona, Prince Asculus, finally shows up. And let me tell you, he has had it. He's completely fed up. He basically yells at everyone saying this is the third time they've started a riot over basically nothing, just an airy word. So he lays down the law, a final ultimatum. The next person who starts a fight in these streets is going to be executed. Just like that, the stakes are raised as high as they can possibly go. All right, so with that threat hanging over everyone's heads, let's zoom in a bit. Let's meet the two people who are right at the center of this storm, even though, at this point, they have no idea the other one even exists. So first up, we've got Romeo. And where was he during that big brawl? Oh, he was off being the most dramatic, lovesick teenager you can possibly imagine. He is so completely over the top about this girl, Rosaline, who doesn't love him back, that he literally wanders around in the woods before sunrise, crying. He says he's adding his tears to the morning dew. For him, this little crush feels like the end of the entire world. And on the other side of town, there's Juliet. Get this, she's not even 14 years old yet, and her whole life is already being planned for her. Her parents are busy setting her up with this nobleman, Paris. And Juliet? She's a good, obedient daughter. She hasn't really thought about love or marriage. She just says, okay, I'll check him out, because that's what her mom and dad want. Her whole world is very, very small and very controlled. So, you've got these two totally separate worlds, right? One kid is moping about a crush, the other is just trying to be a good daughter. How on earth do they end up meeting? Well, in the most dramatic way you can think of course. They're gonna crash a party. It all happens because of a total fluke. A servant from the Capulet house can't read, so he just happens to ask Romeo to help him with the guest list for a big party. And who's on the list? You guessed it, Rosalind. Romeo's friends are like, dude, this is perfect, let's go crash the party. You'll see other girls and forget all about her. It's such a reckless, impulsive decision, but it's that one choice that puts him on a direct collision course with fate. And of course, he gets to the party and totally forgets about Rosalind, because across the room, he sees Juliet. And it's like, boom, Rosalind who? She's completely gone from his mind. It's this absolutely electric moment where he realizes that whatever he thought love was before, well, it was nothing, not compared to this. He is just instantly 100% in love. But someone else sees Romeo there. It's Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. Now, this guy lives for the feud. He hears Romeo's voice and he just knows. That's a Montague. And he is absolutely furious that an enemy would dare crash their party. Lord Capulet, the host, actually tells him to chill out and leave Romeo alone. But Tybalt is not having it. He's seething. And he makes a silent promise to himself that this insult, it's not over. It's going to be paid for. And right there, a seed for some serious violence is planted. So, Romeo and Juliet, they meet, they dance, they even share a kiss, all without knowing who the other is. Then Romeo asks the nurse, hey, who's her mom? And when she tells them she's a Capulet, his entire world just falls apart. He says, "My life is my foe's debt." He realizes he's just given his whole heart to his sworn enemy. And then it's Juliet's turn for that same gut-punch moment. As Romeo is leaving, she asks her nurse, "Go ask his name." And when she finds out he's a Montague, it's just devastating. My only love sprung from my only hate. It's this perfect, terrible irony. The first time she's ever felt real love, and it's for the one person on Earth she's supposed to hate. And that's it. The first domino has just been tipped over. So what do you do? What do you do when you're trapped in this completely senseless family war? Well, if you're Romeo and Juliet, you decide to just ignore it. And you make a wild, desperate plan to take control of your own lives. So that same night, Romeo can't stay away. He sneaks into the Capulets' backyard, the orchard, and he hears Juliet up on her balcony, talking to herself, confessing how much she loves him. And their connection, it's just so intense, so immediate, they decide right then and there to get married. And I'm not talking about like next year. They decide to get married the very next day. So yeah, they go from strangers to engaged in less than 24 hours. Talk about moving fast. Okay, but they can't just do this on their own, right? They need a grown-up to go along with this pretty crazy plan. So Romeo runs to his friend and mentor, Friar Lawrence. Now the friar is a little stunned at first. I mean, wasn't Romeo just crying over Rosalind yesterday? But then he thinks about it, and he sees this glimmer of hope. He thinks, wait a minute, maybe their love could be the thing that finally ends the stupid feud. He agrees to marry them, hoping it'll turn all that hate into love. But that hope for peace, it gets absolutely shattered. It all comes crashing down in just one single brutal afternoon, when the violence of this feud finally boils over. This right here, this is the point of no return. So get this. Just a few hours after Romeo and Juliet get married in secret, Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, finds Romeo in the street, spoiling for a fight. But Romeo, who is now technically related to Tybalt, refuses to fight him. He's trying to be peaceful, but his best friend, Mercutio, sees this as a huge dishonor. He can't stand it, so he draws his sword on Tybalt. In the chaos that follows, Tybalt kills Mercutio, and with his last breath, Mercutio just curses both families, "A plague, O both your houses." And you just have to look at how fast this all happens. It's catastrophic. In about 30 minutes, the whole thing just completely falls apart. First, Tybalt challenges Romeo. A few minutes later, Mercutio's dying. A few minutes after that, Romeo, just blinded by grief and rage, gets his revenge and kills Tybalt. And then, boom, the prince shows up and banishes Romeo from Verona forever. That secret wedding that was supposed to bring peace, it directly caused 2 deaths and got Romeo exiled. It's a total disaster. So where does that leave us? The consequences are just devastating. The friar's big plan to bring the families together, it has backfired in the most spectacular, most horrific way you can possibly imagine. Romeo is now in exile, a killer, and Juliet is now the wife of her own cousin's murderer. They are trapped in a completely impossible situation, separated by the law, by blood, and now by grief. And that leaves us with the huge question hanging over the rest of the play. With Romeo banished and her parents still trying to marry her off to someone else, is there any escape for these two? Is there any way out? Their secret plan for happiness has kicked off a chain reaction that is just spiraling towards complete and total disaster. It feels like fate has taken over, and right now, it's really hard to see how this ends in anything but tragedy.